Whatever rocks your socks, whatever spins your top, whatever winds your watch, whatever flips your flop, whatever turns you on, whatever flies your flag, whatever bangs your gong, or whatever swings your bag. Do it often, but do it well, 'cause nobody knows and there's no way to tell when the ride ends.
Good morning. Welcome back to Turtle Beach. Thank you for coming. We are once again at the remain of the tin dredging. This is the literal Thai Muang, the end of the tin mine. Oh, I don't know if you can see it. It's through the trees. It's a big concrete grid out there. That's all that's left is a concrete base. But this is the literal Thai Muang, the end of the tin mine. End of the road. Last exit. Last stop on the highway of life. Everybody off the bus. Everybody off the train. This is as far as we go. Thai Muang. End of the line. I hope you are in your Turtle Beach. I hope if you haven't found your Turtle Beach yet, you are in the process of finding it out. But if you are, grab your favorite beverage, your coffee or your tea, get comfy in your big chair or your hammock, and join me for a few minutes. I got some stuff to talk about. How's that for light and such? This hat was gifted to me by a viewer, and turns out I really like wearing a bucket hat. Who knew? But I'm not going to deprive the women in the audience, both of you, of this, all of this, right? Why deprive? You women have earned it. You've earned the right to look at Steve Rosse today. All right, bear with me while I set the tripod up. I'm getting a behind-the-scenes look at the making of Postcards from Turtle Beach. How much of this can you see? Can you see the water? It is just after dawn. The sun is not up yet, so there's not enough contrast out there for you to really see the ocean, I think. But yeah, that's Turtle Beach. This is the end of the road, the remain of the tin dredging. There's about, I think, 3 or 4 more kilometers of beach that you can only get to from the beach. There's no roads or anything that go up to the headland up there. It's called Khao Nayak, the mountain that is the face of the giant. And that separates us from the Top Lamoon Naval Station, where they have their own rather more fancy turtle hatchery than we have here, but we are Turtle Beach. All right, settle in. Take a drink. Current business. I am no longer going to apologize for using clickbait titles. I saw a video this morning of a woman, I don't know where she's from, but the title of her video was, "The media won't show you this side of Thailand." Oh, salacious. Okay, click. It's 20 minutes of her going with a paid guide, a middle-aged Thai guy who speaks English, and he's taking her through a fresh market and introducing her to the vegetables and fruits and things you would see in a Thai talat nat, the weekly market. And then she tries durian for the first time. And that's it. That's the video. That's what the media won't show you. That is the side of Thailand the media won't show you. Having durian on a paid-for tour of a weekly market. Beautiful. It's absolutely brilliant. It's either amoral as hell or it's absolutely brilliant. Either way, I salute you, lady, and I am never going to apologize again for using clickbait titles. But I have some other apologies to make, or at least explanations. So last week, I did what I thought called a walking meditation around the Wihan at Wat Ta Sai, the temple on the beach. It was pointed out to me that I was walking counterclockwise instead of clockwise around that temple. So it wasn't a walking meditation. It was Steve showing how very little he actually knows about Buddhism. Listen, I tried to be a good Buddhist 30 years ago and failed dismally. I no longer even try. I participate in a few local superstitions and traditions and rites and rituals because it makes me feel good and it's a way to connect with my neighbors. I'm a terrible Buddhist. I am full of desire. I am full of tanha. I want. And it's something I struggle with, and it prevents me from being any kind of decent Buddhist. So I may say stuff in these videos like, the Buddha says. Well, that's something I read in a book in the New York Public Library in 1988. Take it with a grain of salt. I may or may not be remembering it correctly. Steve got it wrong, right? Steve got it wrong. So, my clickbait title this week is, Why Dave Hates Me. Dave was a fan. Dave was the first guy to ever buy Boontong's merchandise. The very first day they went on sale. He bought a cuttlefish spine. And he sent me a picture. He put it in a pride of place. He gave it pride of place on his bookshelves. I was very flattered, very pleased. Well, Steve has a pattern. All right. People, particularly men. Is that surf too loud? Can you hear me? It's actually a very calm, flat day. Yeah, the light's not right to show you the pretty ocean. I have a pattern, all right? Guys will read something I've written, or these days they'll see a video, and they'll say, this Steve Rosse, he gets it. He gets me. My family doesn't understand why I gave up everything back in the West to come live with this stranger in the country, in Thailand, in the outback of Thailand. What do I want to say? The countryside of Thailand. My family doesn't understand what I've done. My coworkers don't understand what I've done. My friends don't understand what I've done. Sometimes I don't understand what I've done. But Steve did it too. And if Steve did it, it can't be all wrong. So therefore, Steve's my new guy. So I'm going to watch all his videos. I'm going to read all his books. I'm going to go look up all his old articles online. I'm going to send Steve fan mail. I'm going to buy Steve's merch. There's a honeymoon period of a few weeks, but as they go through my videos and as they read my books, they find that, oh no, I'll say something, whatever it is, right? Oh, I don't like Steve now. Oh, Steve's not the guy I thought he was. I feel betrayed. I feel disappointed and let down by Steve Rosse, and it makes me angry because a week ago I sent him a fan letter. Therefore, I'm going to be really angry at him now, and they are. And they do all kinds of stuff. I've told you, Pete in Florida years ago, read some stuff on Stickman Bangkok's blog. He sent me a bunch of fan mail. He sent me photographs of what he was doing in Bangkok. And it was also just cliched, stupid mongerism. And I wrote a story and posted it. A piece of fiction, but, based on real events in Pete's life. Oh, Pete got very angry. And it culminated with Pete sending me a screen capture of my mother's front door. He went online, found my mother, found her home, not my home, and he sent me a picture of my mother's front door. I know where your mother lives, dude. Because I wrote a story that kind of made fun of him a little bit. And he had been a fan. If he had been somebody who hadn't been a fan and I'd written that same story, he would have said, yeah, screw you, Steve Rosse, who are you? Jump off a bridge. But because he had written me fan mail, now he's extra pissed, right? So Dave, I said something last week. I talked about the Pattaya unapologetic mongers, the fat old white guys who go to Pattaya to retire, and they meet a woman, and that woman drags them up country. They buy 3 rai of land, they buy some rambutan trees, they build a concrete house, in her name, the land's in her name. They buy cars and trucks and motorcycles in her name. And eventually, once she sucked all the juice out of their snow cone, they start to feel like they're no longer welcome on this farm up country. You know, people aren't smiling at them the way they used to. The uncles aren't inviting them to drink lao khao under the tree anymore. And their woman is being a little, a little bitchy. And they feel disappointed, but they're invested there. They've invested everything there. Not only all their money, but they've told everybody back home, this is my Turtle Beach. This is where I'm going to spend the rest of my life. I'm in heaven. And it's no longer heaven. They spend their days in their single air-conditioned room watching motorsports on YouTube. Well, Dave and a few other people who live up country with the women who dragged them up country don't like being told maybe this is not the idyll you think it is. And maybe it is. I have no idea. You know what? I've only got one friend who ever retired to Pattaya, Maddie, and he's not at all what I described. It is Maddie's Turtle Beach. Maddie is ethereally happy in a go-go bar. And that's Maddie's Turtle Beach. Maddie is not what I described. I have never known a Falang who retired to Pattaya other than Maddie. I met a few. I have spent 5 days in Pattaya in my life. 5 days in Pattaya. Everything else I know about Pattaya is the stereotypes. You see, I mean, these guys are making YouTube videos. You can see their lives, and it's pretty laughable, right? And they are what they are, and warts and all, they're right there on YouTube. And they used to write blogs, and they used to write short stories in magazines, And everything I know about these guys comes from that. So perhaps I'm off base when I describe the Falang in Pattaya, the guy who retires to Pattaya, as a guy who couldn't get laid back in his own country. Maybe there are exceptions to the rule, or maybe Steve is just buying into a stereotype that is emotionally pleasing to Steve because it helps Steve feel superior to these other white guys. There's so many white guys here now. There are so many Falang in Thailand now that, my God, I don't want to be part of that pack. Do you? Do you want to be lumped in with all these creeps? I don't. Ugh. That's why I don't live in a place like that. That's why I live in a place like this. Nobody finding you here on this beach will ever assume that you are Falang Kikai, right? No. The sun's coming up. Falang Kikai like to sit in the sun. Steve does not at all. So I'm going to wrap this up. That's 12 minutes. So I apologize to the unapologetic mongers in Pattaya. I was making assumptions based on stereotypes. If I was wrong, if you're not that guy, good on you. If that's your Turtle Beach, good on you. I apologize. And to Dave and all the other guys who actually have found their Turtle Beach with a woman on 3 rai of land outside of Chiang Rai or Pla or wherever you are, knock on nowhere. If you've actually found it, if you're actually happy there, good for you. Don't listen to Steve. Steve got it wrong, right? I, off the top of my head, don't know personally. I'm sure I do, but for the most part, again, it's stereotypes. I've met guys in bars. One leaps to mind, a guy who came to Bangkok. I met him at a bar on Nana, and an old guy, and his glasses were held together with electrical tape, and he was in Bangkok for a dental procedure, and he was so happy to be out of his single air-conditioned room on the farm back in Yasathon. I mean, this guy was in his 70s, and he was being a teenager for 2 days on Nana Plaza, and then he had to go back to Yasathon to his wife and her goddamn family. That, so if I made a mistake, if that's not you, that's fine. All right, listen, I wanna wrap this up with another example of how Steve shot himself in the foot and lost a bunch of fans. I used to write for Phuket magazine back in the 90s. And I had a column at the end of Phuket magazine. It was called The Sting in the magazine industry. A hopefully humorous column, first-person anecdotal column at the end of the magazine. Because a lot of people read, or used to, when we read magazines, we used to read them back to front. For some reason, you just start at the back of the magazine and read backwards. I still read magazines that way. My mom used to keep a basket of New Yorkers next to the toilet. I still do that. But I was writing for Phuket Magazine, and the only big event at that time in Phuket in the late 80s, early 90s was the King's Cup Regatta. And I'm thinking of this because the King's Cup Regatta was on December 5th, the birthday of the previous monarch. And we've just, had December 5th, and it's still Father's Day in this country. So I was thinking about this, the King's Cup Regatta. I was thinking, I haven't heard of the King's Cup Regatta. I'm living just north of Phuket. I haven't seen any Phuket vlogs about the regatta. I haven't seen any ads on Facebook. Is it still going on? Is there still a Phuket King's Cup Regatta? I don't know. But back then, this would have been about 92, 93, I think, Phuket Magazine asked me to write a column for the Sting about the regatta, because that magazine would be in all the hotels that the yachtsmen would be staying in, or the people coming to cover the regatta, or the people coming just to enjoy the regatta. They'd be staying in the local hotels, and Phuket Magazine was placed for free on the nightstands, next to your bed in your hotel room. What's on, where to go, And they said for December, let's have a regatta column. I said, okay. So I had been eating for free. There was a restaurant on Chalong Bay called Latitude 8, and it's where all the yachties went. In those days, the resident yachties on Phuket, they only stayed at Chalong Bay. That was the only yacht harbor, I guess, in Phuket in 1988. And there was one restaurant on the beach there. It had been Pan's Lighthouse. Julian Pan had been running it. And they sold it to, I forget the guy's name, but I had mentioned it in a column, and the guy loved me. Guy became a fan. He fed me for free. Whenever I came to Latitude 8, I was eating for free. Free Phalang food. And there were very few places outside of the 5-star hotels selling Phalang food on Phuket in those days. There was no McDonald's on Phuket, no Burger King, no KFC. There was none of that shit. No Italian food, no German food. On Patong and Soi Bang Lao, there might be a beer garden, a patisserie, a Italian food joint, gelato maybe. But for the most part, we went days eating, weeks, months eating just Thai food. So free Phalang food at Latitude 8. So I thought I'll make him happy. I'll write about Latitude 8 again. I'll write about the Chalong Bay yachties. So I want to read you just a couple paragraphs of what I wrote. I'm going to have to take off my glasses for this. Forgive me. Oh, and I preface this. This was posted on Stickman's blog back, 2013, 2012, I don't know. And at that time, I put a preface on it. I posted here because I think it paints a nostalgic portrait of a Phuket that no longer exists. And because I know that I could go back to Latitude 8 right now, 20 years later, sit down and order a hamburger and a beer, and nobody would recognize me or care at all what I had to say. Time heals all wounds. The local Thai population of Chalong Bay refer to the yachties as Chow Lei, or sea gypsies. This is the same moniker they hang around the necks of the poverty-ridden but postcard quaint sea gypsies who've been the chronic underclass of Phuket for at least 700 years. Well, those 700 years of peasants now own prime real estate in Rawai Beach by right of squat. And they've got seafood restaurants and pot stores, broccoli stores. And the Chow Lei are no longer, I think, a chronic underclass. You can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. To the local Phuketians, there's precious little difference between a man eating goose liver pate aboard a 42-foot Beneteau Oceanus and a man eating smoked fish and sticky rice aboard a 20-foot-long open longtail boat. In the eyes of the average Phuketian, if you have to live on a boat, it's because you can't afford to buy a house. If you are seen in public wearing only flip-flops, shorts, and the odor of plexiglass resin, it's because you're a bum. QED. And this is Steve trying to make friends. Honest to God, right? They are scruffy, unshaven mariners trading lies at Latitude 8 in an atmosphere of cigarette smoke, body odor, and brine. any one of whom would probably sell you his shoes for the price of a beer. And last, I take a shot at the King's Cup Regatta. Every year, the King's Cup Regatta Organizing Committee would give me a lanyard, right? I get a big bag of gack, hats, t-shirts, bottles of liquor, all kinds of guidebooks and stuff like that. And 3 days free at the regatta. Eat for free, drink for free, go to all the parties for free, interview the guy, and get articles out of it for every publication in Thailand. I'd write for The Post, The Nation, Thailand Tatler, Living in Thailand magazine, all kinds of travel trade magazines. Man, I got buku money out of writing about the regatta every year, and a free hotel room at the Phuket Yacht Club, and a bag full of gack. This is how Steve said thank you in 1993. The King's Cup Regatta, although it may be worth 10 minutes of film on cable TV, has absolutely no effect on the lives of Phuket's non-yachting population. Coming at the beginning of high season, it gives no boost to hotels that would be full anyway, no boost to airline reservations that have been booked solid for months anyway, no boost to the local cultural or culinary venues that never see hide nor hair of a yachty anyway. The local press ignores it. The local expat community looks down their nose at it because they're not invited. And the local Thai community is blissfully unaware that it even exists. Now it ends. Yeah, that's Steve trying to make friends. So they 86'd me from Latitude 8. I was eating for free there one day. I was 86 the next. And at the regatta that year, the local yachties used to hang out at Coconuts. I think it's still Coconuts restaurant. You had to walk past Coconuts to go in or out of the yacht club. And conversations would stop that year. Steve would walk past Coconuts on his way to the regatta, and conversations would start, and yachties would glare at me. Arrgh. Right? Yeah. I lost friends. At the end of it, I want to say one last thing. You know, I posted this online in 2012, I think, because I thought it painted a picture of a long-gone Phuket. This is how I ended it. In 1993, I ended it with a news clipping. Whatever the merits of their argument, the powers that be are going to make life a little more difficult for the Chalong Bay yachties in the near future. There are new visa restrictions that will make it difficult for them to stay on Phuket long enough to make their way through the menu at Latitude 8, while the international racing crowd, who comes for only 2 weeks in December, will find little different on their next visit. Soon, the long-term yacht-based expat may be an endangered species, and Chalong Bay will once again be the exclusive home of the long-tail boats and the commercial fishing vessels. The resident Phuket yachty will become a rarity, and perhaps one day we'll only see them in zoos, alongside the gibbon, the tiger, and the elephant. Well, if you know Phuket, I know driving into Phuket, I pass about 10 places that call themselves Yacht Haven, Yacht Marina, Yacht Basin, whatever. I think the Phuket yachty there's probably, I don't know, dozens of times more now than there were in 1993, 1988, whenever I wrote this. So Steve got it wrong there. Steve predicted, I can remember driving downtown opposite the Pearl. I think they put the first McDonald's in Phuket. And my reaction was, who would put a McDonald's in Phuket? Who comes to Thailand on vacation to eat McDonald's? Are they crazy? This is why Steve has never owned property. Steve has never invested in a business. Steve has never been a manager. Steve has never been... Steve gets it wrong a fair amount. All right, that's it. That's all I had to say. You know, apologies to Dave, and apologies to every Phalang who's found his Turtle Beach on a farm with a woman up in Yasathon. good luck to you. You know, if Steve is operating off of stereotypes, it's because Steve stays on this beach every minute he can. Steve does not leave this beach. Steve went 25 years without being in Thailand. For 25 years, dreaming about Thailand, say it with me, in a cubicle, in a windowless room in the basement of a hospital. Anything I really know about this country is from books I read in the New York Public Library in 1988, or from things I learned in the 7 years I lived on Phuket in the 90s. I'm going to get it wrong, you know, and I'm sorry, you know. If I got it wrong about you or something that's near and dear to you, I apologize. I'm sorry. All right, I'll see you next week. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you much for staying this long, 24 minutes. It's a very long monologue. I very much appreciate your attention and your time. This is the most important time of my week. I love you guys a lot. I love every single one of you. And I hope you're on your Turtle Beach, or you're on your way to finding your Turtle Beach. If I can find it, you can find it. Have a terrific week. I'll see you next Friday.
Whatever shaves your sheep, whatever bakes your lamb, whatever digs your peak, whatever smokes your ham, whatever blows your nose, whatever chews your bone, whatever squirts your hose, whatever sings your song. Do it often, but do it well. Nobody knows and there's no way to tell. When you're riding, shoot down to that